we go. At the top of the class on a roll. And it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Ayy, on the road, here we go, here we go. Yeah, we winning by a landslide. Never see me coming on my landmine. Yeah, I ain't taking orders in command like. Yeah, you about to see me on demand like. You know on demand. If you ain't know, you about to understand. Yeah, I got the team by my side, right hand. Yeah, take it to a string, you ain't seen it like that. Yeah, and it's the dream, and we coming for the bag.
All right, welcome to the Fantasy Six Pack 2023 Fantasy Football Team Previews. My name is Joe Bond, founder of FantasySixPack.net. With me today is Jordan Schultz. What's up, man?
Not too much, man. Just knocking these previews out. It's a beautiful day out. Life is good.
Good stuff, man. Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about the Washington Commanders. But before we do that, I want to remind you guys to hit that subscribe button, like the video, leave those comments. We appreciate it. We love hearing from you. And, of course, jump over to FantasySixPack.net/plan to become an all-access member today. You're going to get access to our fantasy football draft cheat sheet, our award-winning rankings, the projections. You're going to get access to our DFS content and lots more. And, of course, best of all, in my opinion, you get to access to me, Jordan, and then some on our Discord where you get to ask custom league questions so that we can help you dominate your drafts and leagues and take home that league championship, which, of course, is the ultimate goal, right? All right, without further ado, let's jump into our Washington Commanders preview. Start off here with the quarterback room, and it's a little bit of an interesting one. Carson Wentz was the man last year. Probably shouldn't have been. Heineke was there. Kind of a, fun story, but not really a good quarterback as far as fantasy goes. Won a bunch of games randomly, but Now we bring in Sam Howell, second-year player from North Carolina. They brought in Jacoby Brissett to, I guess, sort of be the backup. There's a lot of talk that maybe he'll just take it over in camp. I don't know. I feel like we've seen Jacoby Brissett. The Commanders aren't getting anything done with Jacoby Brissett as quarterback. I mean, they either just need to suck or they're going to be good, and I think they need to rely on Sam Howell, in my opinion, to see what he's going to be. Now, of course, if he goes in and just stinks up the place, you obviously bring in Brissett, right. No questions asked. But I feel like Sam Howell needs to be the guy. Look, fantasy relevance as far as Sam Howell, I don't think he's being drafted in any leagues as especially one quarterback leagues. Who do you think is winning this job out of camp is, I guess, the real question, because that's going to carry a lot of weight into the other positions.
So I hope it's Sam Howell. Been a fan of him since he was in college. A year before he got drafted, he was getting talked about as a potential top 10 pick, and then weirdly took a step back after, 4 of his offensive skill players went to the NFL. It's crazy how that happens. I'm hoping that it's Sam Howell. Yeah, it's crazy. Weird. How did he get worse? But, he is a sneaky good runner. So there's a little bit of unmined fantasy gold. He does take the job. And I think what you said is right. I think that Howell is going to be the guy. And I think they brought Brissett in there just as kind of a break in case of emergency thing, in case Sam Howell isn't the guy, or just, it's not working with him, then you do have him that you can slide in. It's one of the few, I guess, true quarterback battles I'm following in the preseason. I do think Howell has a pretty good edge there. But that being said, Brissett was better than a lot of people realized last year. Yeah. Over 17 games, fantasy points per game, he would have came in as quarterback 13. So, I mean, that's pretty good. I feel like the Cleveland offense, noticeably got worse without him, which is not really fair after, Watson took a year and a half off. It was kind of expected to have growing pains. But, the offense, in my opinion, did take a step back. You look at, Amari Cooper's production. Didn't really change much going from Brissett to Watson, who's supposed huge upgrade. So I do think it's a camp battle, but I'm hoping it's Howell, and I think that Howell is the starter to at least start the year.
Yeah, I really do think it's Howell. And look, I'm back on the bandwagon with the Commanders now that Snyder is gone. So I've got the hat.
Good day.
I was not rooting for them, but I did follow it still clearly pretty closely. Just more so just because I do this. I have a lot of friends who are Commanders fans, and when they drafted Sam Howell, it was, oh my God, what a wasted pick. I'm like, dude, it's a 5th round. Who cares
no
at this
risk.
point? Who else is available? We don't have a quarterback. Carson Wentz, get out of here. Sam Howell was an awesome pick. I loved just take the chance, right? As you said, he was being touted as a top 10 pick before the season. Obviously, The season didn't go as planned. The entire Carolina team took a huge step back. Honestly, though, like his stats weren't that bad.
No, they weren't losing because of him.
He threw for 500 less yards. Okay. He had nobody to throw to, right? Mm-hmm. He only threw 2 more interceptions. His passer rating was pretty close. He also ran for 660 yards more. Yeah. 146 to 828 yards rushing.
He's a little Daniel Jones to his game where you don't realize it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, like, I love this pick. I love the potential he has. I think, you know, if you look at grades coming out of college as far as like skill set, he's got it. I mean, there was a reason why he was being touted as a Heisman front runner before the 2021 season in college, a top 10 pick before the 2021 season in college, because he's got the skill set, but he just had a bad year and everybody kind of crapped on him. And the Commanders might have just fallen into a just bargain. And I think it also, he dropped because, no, it was the guy who went to Tennessee. Dang it, Malik Willis.
Yeah.
Everybody was waiting for Willis to get drafted, and then the rest of the quarterbacks went. And Willis fell so far that nobody was willing to take anybody ahead of him. And that is exactly what happened. So all the quarterbacks just plummeted in that draft. Now, granted, it wasn't the greatest draft class for quarterbacks, but Howell was a phenomenal value pick, and there's no risk involved. Start Howell, see what happens. Brissett's the next man up, and it is what it is. So moving over here to the running back room, we got Brian Robinson, we got Antonio Gibson, Jarrett Patterson still around, Jonathan Williams, Chris Rodriguez Jr. I want to ask you, like, what is going on? Like, how do we value Brian Robinson, Antonio Gibson? You know, Antonio Gibson feels like in this offense he goes in and out of the doghouse. I don't know what's going on. You know, Brian Robinson feels like kind of a stable, they're going to get in the rock kind of guy, but he's not anything super exciting. Who's the guy that you want here in fantasy and why?
For me, it's Gibson. I'm assuming you're playing in either like a half or a full PPR league. I think if you go standard, then probably Robinson, just because he's going to get the goal line work more than in between the tackles. But for 90% of the fantasy leagues, I'll go Antonio Gibson. As far as like running back goes, like in my dynasty league, he's been like one of my biggest buys all off season, and I think I'm going to come away with him in quite a few redraft leagues, unless the ADP corrects from where it's at right now. Eric Bieniemy coming in and designing that offense, it's going to really benefit a player with his skill set. Looking at what he did last year, even though kind of in and out of the doghouse, like you mentioned, still had a career high 46 catches, over 350 yards. I feel like that's kind of like a floor for him this year in this offense if he plays all 16 games. So I'm going in on Gibson. He's the guy out of the two that I'd feel the most comfortable investing in redraft or dynasty.
Yeah, I personally, this is one of those backfields that I really want to wait to see how Bieniemy uses them in camp, and I want to hear a lot of reports coming out. This is a team that I'm like heavily watching because I want to see how Bieniemy uses it, how he uses Howell, Robinson, all these guys. Right? There is talent on this team. It's just a matter of can they unlock it. You know, Brian Robinson, and you know, you look at like a Kansas City team, right? Too, and I know Bieniemy wasn't exactly calling plays over there because it was more Andy Reid, but like they just didn't utilize the running backs the way that sometimes you thought they should. And you know, it was a lot of like gadget, you know, underneath, you know, route running stuff to a running back. So maybe that does favor Gibson,
kind of the McKinnon role,
yeah, or you know. Will, now that Bieniemy is calling the plays, will he lean on a Brian Robinson because Howell is so young and unproven? It's a lot of unknown. I really do like what we saw from Brian Robinson at times, but he really kind of hit a rookie wall too. Yeah. So I'm not like super excited about either one of these guys, but it's another one of those, like, if you're waiting on running back and you kind of need to take a chance on somebody. To me, as Robinson, he's a little safer. Gibson's got way more upside, in my opinion, though. I mean,
Robinson was pretty good. I mean, you know, obviously got a shot in the preseason, if I remember right. Yes. So, like, he came in like game 4 or 5, if I remember. And in only 12 games, he had 7 top 30 running back finishes. So, I mean, he was flexible last year, too. I think the volume could come down a little bit, but like the optimist says, like, you know, he had those 7 top 30 finishes and only had 3 rushing touchdowns. And that's like the role that I think is the most secure for him, is I think he's going to get the work on the short yardage stuff.
Absolutely.
Chris Rodriguez, though, I do think he might play a little bit of a role. Again, don't get caught up too much in the coach speak, but they apparently had the 3rd round grade on him, they said. So he's not going to be fantasy relevant per se, but if you told me at the end of the year that he kind of snuck in and took 2 or 3 touchdowns away from the rest of the running backs, that wouldn't be the craziest thing to me.
he'd be if Robinson goes down, Rodriguez is the guy to snatch up, because I don't think Gibson's role is going to change.
I mean, I think he's a 5 to 8 carries, and then he'll do the rest in the passing game.
So jumping over to the receivers, still got Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel, De'Ami Brown, Dax Maline, and Marcus Kemp. McLaurin and Dotson are an intriguing duo. Dotson, I felt like, was super underrated coming into last season. And I remember when he got drafted, people were like, what in the hell? And I was like, dude, he's the real deal. Like, my wife's a Penn State fan, so we watch lots of Penn State games. And I just remember watching Dotson. The dude's a baller. Yeah. The guy wants the ball, and he's going to go get the ball. And he showed it last year. That's exactly what he did. McLaurin is talented, but I don't know, man. Like, I don't. And granted, it's quarterback play for a lot of it, but it just feels like he's not quite putting it all together to be a true receiver one. But that being said, do you think McLaurin deserves to be discussed in that receiver one conversation this year?
I don't know if I go top 12 wide receiver one, but like I think he kind of finishes in the top half of the second round, or the second group of receivers. Like I think last year he was like around wide receiver 14 on a lot of scoring formats. I think that's kind of a safe area to kind of expect like top end productions around 12 to 14 maybe. I mean, he's been remarkably consistent despite, like you said, sorry fans, but garbage quarterback play the last few years. Like no matter who starts this year, it's going to be the best quarterback he's played with in his career in Washington. The past 3 seasons, despite that revolving cast of just garbage quarterback, he still averages 80 catches, over 1,100 yards, and 5 scores. I mean, I think that should be his floor this year. Yeah. But Dotson, he's the guy that I think he's really primed to break out. So for some reason, he's the one or first round receiver last year that isn't really getting a lot of hype this year. And I don't get it either. So 20% of his total catches went for touchdowns, had 35 catches, 7 of them turned into scores. Only saw 61 targets, had 15 yards per catch, over 500 yards. The next 7 wide receivers ahead of him in fantasy points per game all saw 90 plus targets. So he did that on 2/3 the targets that the guys ahead of him did.
Yeah, I mean, he missed 5 games also.
So I think
there was lots of games where he saw like 1 target, 2 targets, 1 target. Yeah. And it was like, what? Like when he came back off the injury, he just wasn't getting used.
Yeah, I mean, the discount to get him in dynasty leagues, like that's gone. I think the smart guys have already kind of figured that out. But I think that he's going to slide in redraft leagues to the point where he has like league winning potential this year, because it wouldn't be the craziest thing if you said, he's the most productive fantasy receiver at the end of the year, just because the flashes that he did show last year were so dang good. Like me personally, I'll still go Terry. I've been a Terry fan since he came in the league. But if you told me that, Terry was a high-end wide receiver too, and Dotson was a consistent flex play this year, like I would not be shocked by that at all, especially if Howell comes in and likes to air the ball out a little bit.
Yeah, I'm seeing Dotson's ADP right now, and granted, ADP is not the greatest data right now. It's a lot of best balls and super early, but it's around 90 to 100. I've got him ranked around 75, 76 right now overall. Yeah. If I were drafting today, I probably have Dotson in every single one of my leagues. Just because you can get him at wide receiver 4, 5 range, and I have him just outside wide receiver 3 in my rankings. Yeah, I'm all about it. I mean, I love the touchdown potential. They loved using him there, and I don't see that changing.
One other guy here too, it's kind of outside of the top 3 here, is De'Ami Brown. If Howell does win the job, just keep that name on your watch list, just because they were very productive together in college, and that doesn't always transition over. But if he does win that job, just kind of keep that name on the watch list. And if you hear some reports coming out of camp, it might be worth just throwing him on the bench, just as, maybe he comes in and plays that Curtis Samuel role this year, or cuts into that a little bit more. But yeah, so just keep that name on the watch list as well.
Chemistry is a crazy thing. That'll work. So, all right, finishing off here with the tight ends, and it's a ho-hum group, man. Logan Thomas is just a physical specimen, but never can stay healthy. John Bates is a guy. Cole Turner, whatever. Anybody that you're even remotely looking at as far as redraft leagues?
Ooh, redraft, not as much, but I do think Cole Turner is a little bit of a sneaky buy right here. Missed all of last year with an injury, and he's been kind of, the reports coming out of the camp, they're saying he's been like one of the most impressive players and most improved players from year 1 to year 2. And I literally just went through my dynasty leagues and picked him up for free off waivers on 6 leagues. So the tight end position is weak. It sucks. So, I mean, anytime you have a chance to get some upside there, I think it's worth swinging on. So Turner's the one that I'm going. Like, he's going completely undrafted. He's free on waivers in a lot of leagues. Logan Thomas, we've seen what he's done before, but he's like 31 years old. I mean, really, I can't believe they didn't do more to address the position this offseason, honestly. John Bates, one of the Boise State's finest, baby, but again, he's more of a blocker than a pass catcher. Tight end premium leagues, Thomas is a little bit of a sleeper, but I don't want to count on him as a starter. And I think I'd rather just wait for free and grab Turner and just kind of see what happens. See, maybe he comes in and has a little bit of value as like a tight end too. But none of these guys I want to count on as regular players here. It's the receiving group and Gibson here for me.
Yeah, it's a wait and see thing. If some, we've seen it before, guys come out of nowhere and be it, but you don't have to draft any single one of these guys. Like you said, maybe in Dynasty take a stab at Cole Turner, but otherwise kind of stay away. So that is it for the Washington Commanders preview. I want to thank you for watching, and go ahead and hit that subscribe button.
Do it.
Appreciate it, guys. See ya.
Awesome.